Sorry.
Today we will be discussing the application pending, learn why. A lot of people apply for different positions throughout the state of Illinois. Specifically, we'll be talking about current job openings with the Illinois Department of Revenue and what is the application process and how you're able to apply from setting up an account to actually applying for the position. Disclaimer, this PowerPoint presentation is provided for general information purpose. The information contained in this presentation should not be construed as a legal advice from the Illinois Department of Revenue or the presenter for any purpose, including but not limited to the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, nor is intended to be a substitute for legal counsel on any subject matter. IDOR advises that audience members pursue appropriate legal or other professional advice when seeking guidance based upon their particular facts and circumstances. So, Illinois Department of Revenue has been serving the state of Illinois since 1927. That's when the gasoline tax was enacted here in the state of Illinois. Nowadays, we administer more than 80 different types of taxes throughout the state. Our mission is quite simple. As the Illinois Department Director, Mr. Director Harris, he oversees a budget of $240 million to coordinate tax structure collections. We collect over $67 billion per year. He is required to ensure that all tax revenues are effectively collected and properly deposited into the correct funds from the state treasury's office. It also coordinates with the controller's office to ensure that tax refunds and state payments are made in a timely manner. So a little bit of history of IDOR. We're a very stable state agency. As we said, we administer over 80 different taxes. We do have 1,400 employees here in the whole state of Illinois, where we process more than 13 million tax returns per year, and we process over $60 billion that are deposited directly to our system. Here on the photo, you'll see our main building in Springfield. This is the Wheel of Ice building. This is where most of the taxes go to directly. So if you've ever paid taxes here in the state of Illinois, they go directly to this office, and that's what we get processed with our staff. So career opportunities and application process. I will be opening up, hold on. So these are current job openings currently here with the Illinois Department of Revenue. We have a central processing bureau manager down in Springfield, sales and tax ICV conferee out of the Des Plaines office. Out of the Chicago office, we have a human resource labor liaison position, a credit card cash manager administrator. So all of these positions are currently posted on the work.illinois.gov website. That's where all positions are posted for Illinois Department of Revenue and all those positions for the state of Illinois under the governor's office. So if you do want to look for jobs within IDOR or any other agency, you're able to go directly to this website. As I say, is work.illinois.gov. I will be working through the process of how to set up an account and how to make sure you upload your information. So let's say you're interested in the human resource labor liaison position. You will click on the position itself and you'll review the application itself. It tells you the date that it will be posted, the location of the position, the job requisition, obviously the Department of Revenue. The closing date, this is a very important date to look at. So on February the 6th, this position will be closed for anybody. So if you don't apply by February 6th, you will not be able to apply for this position. Addition to that, they'll give you a salary range for this position. It'll let you know if it's part of the bargaining unit or not. So where it says Plan BU, it'll tell you whether it's part or an exclusion. If it says confidential exclusion, that means it's not part of the bargaining unit. If it is, it'll give you a bargaining unit number. County, obviously here for the Chicago area is Cook County. And as I say, it's salary full-time. If you keep on scrolling down, it gives you brief job responsibilities, what they're looking for the person to do for this job. Minimum qualifications, this is where Central Management Services is going to look at all your qualifications, make sure you at least meet these minimum qualifications. Our staff on our HR team, they're going to be looking at your preferred qualifications. Additional to that, you got to make sure that you are able to meet those conditions of employment. For us, you have to make sure you successfully complete all your tax compliance paperwork. and fingerprint prior to working for us. For this position, they do require a valid driver's license and ability to travel here within the state of Illinois, and requires the ability to have a secure state supply laptop or cell phone, depending on the position. So when you're ready to apply, you will scroll down, and where it says apply, that's where you'll click. So let me go back to our PowerPoint, so we'll move forward from there. Are you guys able to see my PowerPoint, Julie?
Nope, it's still, I'm not on my end.
Okay. So this up. I apologize for any inconvenience. Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so I will go back to our slide. So after you after you view the profile and you click to log in, it will bring you to this page. At this page, if you do already have an account, you will sign in. But for those that don't have an account, I'll go through the process how to set up your account as if you've never applied for state employment. So at the below where it says not a registered user yet, you will click create an account. Once you click create an account, it will bring you to this page. Here you'll make sure you use the email address you use for all employment. So if you use a spam email, do not use that because then you won't be able to receive all the information that's needed. So use the email you currently use for your important information. Set up your password, make sure you put your first name, last name, country, county and regional residence. This is important because some positions, they want you to live within a certain county. Currently, we have a position that is posted in the Rockford location, but you must live in Henry County. So that's what you would like to set what county you're going to be currently residing or be willing to reside to. So like if you're going to be able to reside in Sangamon County, which is down in Springfield, and you're interested to move to Springfield, I would say put Sangamon County in that spot. Next, it's going to ask you to upload your documents. So we need 3 documents mostly, which will be your resume, your cover letter, and if you have unofficial transfers. We don't need your official transfers. If you have them, it's welcome to upload them. But if you have a copy of your unofficial transcripts, welcome to upload those directly to the system. As far as your resume, make sure you write down your resume name on there. Although we do have access to your resumes, because it gets transferred from one system to another, sometimes we're not able to look at those resumes. So that's why you have to complete the application completely. If you do upload your resume to the system, it will automatically generate certain information directly to the system. Sometimes it doesn't, so make sure you review your application to see that all the information from your resume has transferred over to the system. After you have uploaded all your information, you'll need to complete your profile information section. This is where you'll put your name, your address, your email address, your phone number. If you do have a secondary phone number in case we need to get in touch with you. Make sure this email address is the same as you want to have on your resume. Sometimes I know people have a different resume they use for the resume and different for their application. It's a little bit easier if you're able to do all in one resume if possible. Next step will be to complete previous employment section. As I said, if you've completed your resume on the system and uploaded, this will generate automatically to the system. So it'll have the name of the company that you work for. So Northeastern Medical Center, that was for this person. They were the diversity, equity, inclusion consultant. And then they'll let them know, are they currently in that position? Were they let go, or have they, were they went to a different position? Additional to that, the start date and the end date. If you're currently still working in that position, all you have to say is current in this position, and then you're gonna have to do an end date and it'll let you move forward. If you don't answer the in this current position, then it will not let you move forward unless you put in a date. Additional to that, you don't have to do any other additional information for this part. You do have it on your resume, but on this part, it doesn't need it on the application itself. Your education. So if you're currently receiving a degree or you're in process, you're able to put as degree status in progress. Whether you have completed or partially completed, you're able to actually on a degree status say whether you did partially completed or in progress. As far as the major field study, usually some people might have a major and a minor. So this is where you're able to differentiate those two. Some people have business administration of arts, some people have business administration of science. That you want to target it directly on your resume, not so much on the application at this part, but on a specific application question, if they're asking what type of major field you were in, then you want to elaborate there. But on this part of the application, you don't. You just have to put what type of major field were you complete your degree in. Complete skills and certifications. These are for some specific jobs where, let's say, if they need you to have a certificate as a diversity, equity, inclusion, project management certificate, or let's say if you need to have a certificate for the medical field, or let's say if you're in HR, a certificate in HR or something in those general ways. That's when you're going to upload this information onto the application. As far as skills, sometimes people have specific skills for specific programs. So let's say if you're an IT person and you do JavaScript or you do Python or you do SQL, this is where you want to write those information on. If you work in HR and you're part of a system where they do a hiring system where they work with personnel, then that's the system you want to write. If you're somebody who works under our finance department and let's say you use our taxillinois.gov website, you want to write those skills that you have with those and a number of years you have experience with that system. So this is where you're able to put that information at. Provide 3 locations you prefer geographic. So let's say you live here in the Cook County area, as I do, or let's say you live down in the Sangamon area, which is in the Springfield. If you're looking to work within the area, so like if you're in Chicago and you want to work in Cook County, Will County, Lake County, this is where you'll be able to set those. With this gives you the ability whenever a position becomes available within that location, and you have a text message alert, they'll send you close matches to what your position is. So if you have a position that you're looking for as a supervisor manager, if they have a position available with another agency within the Cook County, DuPage, and Will County, and something becomes available, they'll send an email letting you know, hey, this position is available, see if you want to apply. So it's very important to make sure you have this geographic information inputted into the system. That way you're able to receive updates when positions become available within state agencies. As I said, when you're looking at the job posting, you want to review the job posting. You want to make sure you look at the closing date because you want to make sure your application has been submitted before that closing date. Although you might have started that application prior to the closing date, you're not able to submit that application if it's past the closing date. So let's say you start your application for this purposes on December the 22nd, but you did not complete your application until December the 24th. You're no longer able to apply for this position because the position had closed on December the 23rd. So just make sure you keep a close eye on the dates because that's the most important part of this application process is to make sure you apply before the date of the closing date. Some closing dates might have a time, so they say by 5 p.m. Some of them might be by midnight. It's just depending on each agency. As us for this position is at midnight, so 12:23 midnight. Once you go past that, if you did not apply, you'll not be able to move forward with the application process. As I say, you click apply to move forward, and they're going to ask you, how did you hear about this opportunity? If you were at one of our job postings or some of our virtual events as a workshop as we have currently, please put workshop. If it was a job fair, make sure you put which job fair you met either with me, if it was at an IDOR employee, or if you met with a CMS employee, please write that on there. It's pretty important for us to make sure that we see where people are looking these jobs up or where they're getting the information for the job. So if you're able to put that on the application, we really encourage that. Because we're trying to increase our diversity within the state of Illinois, we encourage all applicants to complete these diversity questions. You will not be seen differently whether you answer them or not. This is just to make sure that we're meeting those quotas of meeting those personnels who are living in these areas where they're underserved, or are they're in the area where we need to increase our efforts to meet more demand. So we encourage everybody to answer these diversity, equity, inclusion questions, especially when they're on the application process. This will not change um, your qualifications just because you answer these questions. As for us, is more to make sure that we're um, reaching out to different diverse communities and making sure that they're being met by meeting with some of our HR representatives and our recruiting staff. Once again, another thing is our disability questionnaire. All these questions are optional. We encourage everybody to answer them. You don't have to, but like I said, I would encourage everybody to answer these questions if possible. Once again, veteran status. For those who are veterans, understand that you do receive veterans preference for certain positions. But in order to receive those veteran status, you do have to submit those documents directly to CMS. You will not receive those documents to us. You would make sure you have those submitted directly through Central Management Services. The HR team, for any of the other agencies, they don't receive that information. It's directly the Central Management Services who does.
So your
once you go to the application process, they're going to have specific questions that you need to answer. These are samples of what they'll be asking you. So this question asks, this requires you the completion of 4 years of college, and are you able to meet these requirements? So if you did complete a degree, you will say yes. So I completed my bachelor's degree in business administration from Lincoln University, major in human resource. But let's say you have not completed your degree, but you've completed 4 years of college. So you will specifically say, I completed 120 credit hours of business administration and still working in to receive my degree in business administration. So be very specific when you're answering those questions. Specifically when they're asking 4 years of college, they're not asking for a degree per se. Some of these questions will tell you if you do need a degree or you just need the 4 years of college. So let's say you do have 4 years of college, will be about 120 credit hours. Make sure you write 120 credit hours, and make sure you attach your transcripts to the application. So we're able to make sure to look at your transcripts to make sure you have those 120 credit hours that you answer on the application process. Make sure to have information on your resume and your application. So do you possess a DEIA certificate? That was one of the questions they had. So on the resume, the person has certificates, project manager professional certificate, diversity inclusion certificate, the name of the agency they received it from. So they received it from Cornell University, and they're currently current on that certification. So when they ask you those specific questions, make sure you answer it. So they answered it this way: completed diversity inclusion certificate program at Cornell University in 2020, and have an active membership with People Management Cornell University. So make sure you write the organization that you have that certificate or that certification from. And if it's current, you want to write down the expiration, if it has an expiration date, or if it doesn't have an expiration, just write as current. But if it does have an expiration, try to write that expiration date there so we know if it's still active, if it's one of those memberships that only has a time frame. Additional to that, they'll ask questions like, do you possess prior working experience in public government entity? So if you did work for the state or any state, county, city, you do want to write that information. So a lot of times what I tell people, you're able to copy and paste directly from your resume to the application process, or elaborate a little bit more on your application. This person said, worked as human resource specialist for the state of Illinois Department of Revenue, assisting general public apply for job openings with IDOR, conducting workshops, recruiting, and job fairs. So it gives you up to 1,000 characters. So if you're able to write a little bit more, up to 1,000 characters is great. The more you write, the more we're able to see what's your experience and what is your, not only your experience, what job duties you did, and what's your expertise on that question. So we encourage everybody to write more on these because at the end of the day, you'll be scored based on what you write on this application. So everybody gets a score based on the application, and then they get ranked based on what the score was. So the higher the score you have, your higher your ranking will be. So as I said, all the questions will be scored, and then you'll get a rank at the end. And everybody who submitted an application will be put in a ranking system based on the score they received from all the questions they answered. And then if they have any preference points for veterans, or if they have any additional information they posted on from the application. So let's say the application stated that they needed a certificate for a PMP and they did, then they'll get points for that. But if they said no, then they won't get points for that. So that's kind of how the point system goes. Understand if you don't answer the questions, or if you answer the questions, please look at my resume. You will not receive full credit for that question. So as we say, we would like you to encourage to make sure you write the information on the application as more detail of where you received that skill from. Was it through school? Was it through job experience? Or was it a non-paid experience? So Miss Julie, at this point, I'll pass it over to you.
Great, thank you, Johnny.
Yep.
So Johnny's kind of walked everyone through the process of applying for a job. And probably the number one question that we get on the HR recruitment team is, why does it take so long? I applied for a job and it took me over a year, or I never heard back. So we wanted to try and answer a couple of those questions. Now, please keep in mind that this process is changing regularly, and that's a very good thing, because we're really trying to streamline the process. CMS, Central Management Services, is our guide and gives direction to all the state agencies on the application process. So each individual agency, we can't just kind of go out and do our own thing. We have to follow the rules for across the entire state. Now, this flow chart, and I promise there will not be a test on this, and it's just to kind of give you a visual of this process and what we go through. So what you see is the applicant is the actual job posting. So it appears on the state website or on our revenue website. But prior to that posting being up, there's all these steps that take place. So first, the program area decides they have a vacancy to fill. They have to submit a document and get approval by the budget folks and the operational managers and all the powers that be to say, yes, we approve hiring this position. And then once that's approved, it goes to the hiring staff to create the actual posting that you see. It's kind of the end product. It's approved. And then it goes to CMS, and that would be on the second page. So if CMS looks at that posting, they have to give us their blessing. So if we go to the next slide, please, Johnny. We work up all the information, we get the specifics, what the education requirement, what the minimum qualifications that Johnny talked about that you have to meet, what the preferred qualifications are, the salary range, the job hours, all of those details that you see in that job posting have to be done before the posting appears, obviously. So we get that posting created and we send it to CMS, and they review it, and they'll either kick it back and say, you got a mistake here, you need to correct this, or they say, yep, this looks great, you're free to go ahead and post. So then that position gets posted. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky that sometimes people don't understand. So the state of Illinois has a variety of bargaining unions that, and those employees have what we call contractual rights, or an easy way is first dibs. So if there's language in their union contract that says an employee has contractual rights, then they get to apply for that opening and be considered before anybody else does. And it could be what we call an UMP position. And that is where we work with the AFSCME union, and individual employees of the state are in a program that help them take classes and advance in their careers. So if we have to wait 5 business days after that posting comes down to see if there are any folks in the program, and send letters to them to see if they're interested in the position. We have to verify their state employment. There's something called a bid record that is completed. Then we contact those individuals that are on that bid record to see if they are interested in that posting. And if there are, there could be 10 people on that list. And so we start with the person with the most seniority or who is the highest on the list. We contact that information and then we move down that list until someone says yes or no. And if someone internally accepts that position, then it never goes to anybody off the street, we say, to consider for that opening. And that's why sometimes you apply for a job and you don't hear anything because somebody internal took that position. Now, if no one internal wants the job, then it goes to what we call other means or on the street. We open it up and we look at the applicants and start going through that review process. And today in a meeting, we found out that one job at one state agency received 450 applications for one job. So it will take that person at CMS to review those 450 applications about 3 weeks to get through, and that is one position. So if you think about all of the postings, we have maybe 10 or 12 jobs right now at Revenue, and if you think of all the state agencies, it's a lot of reviewing going on. So they go through that process, they review all those applications, and then they send them back over to us and say, here's your pool of candidates. And then our interview and selection team then contacts those candidates to see if they're still interested, and then we set up the interview process, and then go through all of those interviews. There's a panel that's involved in the interview process. As Johnny mentioned earlier, your application is reviewed and you get a score for the application, and then your interview is scored, and those two kind of come together, and the highest scoring candidate is the person that is offered the position. And again, if that person turns us down, then we go to the next person on the list. So as you can see from just this flow chart, it can take, realistically, 4 months would be a really quick turnaround for us, but sometimes it is 6 months and sometimes it is 9 months. It does take a while, as I started out saying. This process changes daily because CMS is continually striving to reduce the time that it takes for us to get applications in the pool or in the stream so that we can get those folks hired and placed in Revenue. So that's a little bit of an overview of the process that we go through. And I think we're at 3:28, so we'd like to open it up and see if you attendees on our call this afternoon have any specific questions for us. And while we wait a minute, if you want to put those in the chat, that would be great. I will let you know that we have these calls monthly. We are doing different dates and times so that we can try to hit schedules for folks. We will be doing one in the evening. I believe maybe late February or March, we're going to have an evening call. The dates and times are always posted on our website. So put the website web address in there. It is tax.illinois.gov. So feel free to go to our site and look at the career opportunities, not only for the jobs that we have posted live today, but also you can sign up for something called Job Alerts. And as Johnny mentioned, you would be notified when a position that you are interested in post. We'll send you a text message or an email alert. So we have other information on there. When we hold these calls, monthly virtual calls, we get questions, and then we put those questions and answers on there. So maybe a question you might have after the call today you didn't think about, you could go back and look at those questions and answers, and other resources that are out there. So we'd encourage you to check out our webpage and see if there's some information out there. Joe asked a question. There are jobs posted with a salary range of blank to blank with no time period. Are those monthly salaries? And yes, they are, Joe. Usually all of the state position salaries are usually monthly, and it is a range. And again, these calls are recorded, so if you miss something, you have to jump off or you jumped on late this afternoon, and there are other calls out there, feel free to listen to the other calls that we've had. We're going to try and do them monthly, so stay tuned.
Well, I guess they do.
Couple of positions that are out there right now that you might be interested in: the revenue collection trainee. These are entry-level positions. Many of them do not require an interview, and we give you all of the training that you need. I would say the second question we get a lot in the recruiting area is, do I have to know about taxes to work at revenue? And the answer is absolutely not. For the positions that are in our forward-facing or tax-facing units like taxpayer services, audit, collections, those areas that deal directly with processing of the taxes, we give you all of the training that you need. It is a combination of classroom and on-the-job training, so you don't need to have any prior experience coming in. We are getting ready, or hopefully very soon, to have a posting for what we call our revenue auditor trainee title. So hopefully in mid to late spring, we'll have that position titled posted, and we are looking for 65 people for those what we call RAT titles. So we will have a very large class hiring. So keep checking back or sign up for job alerts so that you can be notified when that job posts. Again, it does require a 4-year degree and some accounting coursework, but no job experience. So it's a great entry-level way to get your foot in the door and work at revenue. Jessica asked a question. These job postings used to have specific tests to be even considered for an interview. Is that still accurate? And the great news, Jessica, is no, there are no more tests given at the state of Illinois. So the only, in the CMS 100, if you've familiar with state employment, then you hear that term used frequently. It was the old employment application, or the CMS 100, everyone called it, and that has gone away. So everything for the state of Illinois is online or electronic, as Johnny walked you through earlier. So you don't have to have a CMS 100. And I will re-emphasize what Johnny said earlier about being very detailed when you answer those questions on the online application. So a lot of times people just say, refer to my resume. And unfortunately, when they're being evaluated for the qualifications for the positions, we can't go back and look at that resume. So you want to make sure that you are very thorough in your answers. Make sure you give a title, job functions or responsibilities, dates that you held a title, so that you do get the credit for experience in those positions that you're applying for. Other questions that you have for us this afternoon? What about typing tests? And I believe I don't believe they are giving typing tests anymore. I could be wrong on that, but I thought they eliminated those as well. So, Bobby, I think you're on here, and if you know that, can you confirm if they've eliminated typing tests?
They have. There's no typing test.
Yep.
I make this simple.
You are very welcome, Jessica. Any other questions I can help with this afternoon? And Johnny and I are always available. There is a website, or excuse me, an email address on our career page. So if you have more specific questions, then feel free to email us at the webpage or the email address on our website. Nubia asks, is training in person or virtual? And training is in person. Probably the third question that we're asked consistently these days is, are your positions in the office or remote? Our answer is It depends. It depends on the actual position and it depends on the program area. So all of the training that would take place, especially for our trainee titles, those training programs are usually run at least minimum of 12 months, sometimes a little bit longer. So all of the training is actually done in person in the office. Some of our positions do work remote, but those are for individuals who have been in the positions long enough outside of the training period, and those functions can be performed away from the office. But it truly does depend on the individual position in the program area and up to the discretion of the supervisor. So what Johnny has put up here for us is the kind of a screenshot of our webpage. So you'll see on there under About IDOR, and then you go to the Employment Opportunity link, and under Finding a Job, you can create the account with the state of Illinois. So there's helpful instructions on how to create that account that Johnny walked you through earlier, the job postings that are live right now, signing up for the job alerts, and then those frequently hired positions at IDOR. So sometimes we have large classes for our trainee titles. And then sometimes we'll have titles that just we hire on a very, almost not continual, but a very frequent basis. So office associates, office assistants, sometimes admin assistants, clerical in nature as far as job duties, but we hire for those regularly. We also have some great little snippets or vignettes of our employees talking about what it's like to work at Revenue. It's a great agency. We very much believe in training our own employees and promoting within. So we have a very strong culture of training and promotion from within. Resources are on our webpage for living in the capital city. The majority of our jobs are based in Springfield. Johnny talked about this earlier, that when you put down your county preference on your job profile, make sure you put another county on there. Sometimes people leave that blank, and you don't want to do that because you might be able, if you live in Cook County, you might be able to put Lake County down and get an opening in Lake County quicker than you could Cook County. We also have some information about employee benefits on our webpage, as well as the Veterans Program, and then again, upcoming outreach events, and then our monthly virtual statewide calls, just as we're doing right now. So there's a lot of great information out there. We'd encourage you to go check it out. Kimberly, thank you for your question. Do you have to come in as a trainer position for IDOR? The trainee titles, yes, you do. So the training does take place in the office. So again, it's a combination of classroom and on-the-job experience. So yeah, you would have to come in for those trainee titles for the training. Yvette asked, what does the interview process look like for the tax specialist trainee? Yvette, the great news is that in some cases, there is no interview for those titles. So you simply apply. Your evaluation is reviewed, and as long as you meet the qualifications for the position, someone from our team would contact you and offer you a position. So that's one of the many great things about the jobs at Revenue. So talking about the regular interview process for those jobs that do require an interview, if you haven't interviewed with the state before, it's a little bit of a different process. So we always have an interview panel of 2 to 3 people on that panel, and someone usually is the manual or the interview kind of the lead, and will explain the process to you. And then there are at least 2 people that are on the call as well, kind of listening as you interview for the position, and they're taking notes. And then once you answer the question, The questions are all the same for all the candidates. Are usually 10 questions in about an hour. They are virtual, just like we're doing this afternoon. And once you go through that interview process, then you are scored, and all of those scores are tabulated along with your application process, and they are sent to CMS, who reviews them, and then they let us know who the top scoring candidate is. So it's a little different. It's not quite as interactive as interviews maybe that you have been on in outside of state or federal government. So a little bit about that process. Johnny or Bobby, can you think of anything else that we can share with our folks on the call this afternoon? Anything that I've forgotten?
No, I mean, it's some great benefits working for the state of Illinois. For those who don't work for the state of Illinois, we do have 37.5 hours per week. Some of our positions have flexible work hours, depending on which department you work for. We do have paid sick time, vacation time, and 3 personal days per year. There's great career advancements directly here with IDOR. We have tuition reimbursement up to $3,000 per year, as long as it's a state-funded school. With those who are going through the trainee titles, as soon as they complete that 12-month training title program, they go automatically to Revenue Tax Specialist 1 or Revenue Auditor 1. So it's an automatic promotion from that training title to that first title. So additional to that are medical, dental, vision, life insurance, pension. If you do go down to Springfield, they do have an in-house daycare center down there, which is pretty cool for those that are able to go down to Springfield. They do have a lot of trainings available for those who want to learn outside of their own location. So let's say if you work for the Illinois Department of Revenue and you want to learn about some of the other agencies, you have that opportunity to do that too through our CMS University. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. Other than that, I don't see any additional questions at this time.
We just had one from Crystal, and Crystal, I'm not quite sure. Her question is, do we get extended lunches? If so, I will be applying now as we speak. Well, I would certainly encourage you to apply. And your lunch kind of depends on the schedule that you and your supervisor agree to. So some folks have a half-hour lunch. They work a shorter lunch, and some folks have an hour lunch. So I'm not sure if an hour would be extended for you, but it really does depend on the program area and what the needs are of that particular area, and then your individual needs and what everyone else in the unit, the department's kind of doing. But that is something that you would talk to the supervisor about, either when you're interviewing or if you were offered the position. So I hope that answers your question. We certainly don't want to keep you any longer than necessary. It looks like our questions have slowed down a little bit. Again, I encourage you to check out our website for other activities and outreach recruiting events that Johnny and I are going to, and question and answers that are out there that maybe we can address. And our email address, Johnny put in the chat box. rev.idorscareer@illinois.gov. So if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Johnny and I. Hope everyone has a great afternoon. Stay safe with the winter Illinois weather. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.